Hi, my name is Ted. I want to tell you a story that turned my life upside down. My wife Patricia and I have been living in a happy marriage for 3 years now. She is the love of my life, my best friend, and my rock. I never thought that anything could shake our relationship. One day, Patricia came home with some news. "Honey, my mom is inviting us to visit her in Jamaica, in Montego Bay." "Isn't that great?" she said, beaming with joy. To be honest, I didn't share her enthusiasm. The thing is, I had only seen my mother-in-law once in my life, at our wedding, and even then only via Skype. She had some urgent matters to attend to at the time and couldn't make it to the ceremony. Moreover, I was already quite tipsy at the wedding, so I didn't even remember what she looked like. But how could I say no to my beloved wife? "Of course, sweetheart, that's a great idea," I said with feigned excitement. And so, a couple of weeks later, we were already on a plane flying to Jamaica. At the airport, we were greeted by Patricia's mother, Linda. She was a slim, tanned woman in her mid-40s, with long dark hair and a dazzling smile. She was wearing a light, colorful dress that accentuated her sculpted figure. "God, what a beauty!" I thought involuntarily as I shook her hand. As we rode in a taxi to Linda's villa, I stole glances at my mother-in-law. Despite her age, she looked stunning. Her skin was literally glowing with health, and her eyes sparkled with a mischievous twinkle. "Ted, I'm so glad to finally meet you in person," she chirped. "Patricia has told me so much about you." I smiled politely and kept up the conversation, but my mind was filled with thoughts that were far from familial. "Ted, get a grip," I chided myself. "This is your wife's mother. What are you thinking?" But it was impossible not to think about Linda. Her grace, her laugh, her way of speaking, it all literally mesmerized me. When we arrived at the villa, I was struck by its luxury. The huge white mansion was nestled in a sea of tropical greenery, and a crystal-clear pool could be seen in the backyard. "Welcome to my humble abode," Linda laughed, noticing my awe. "Make yourselves at home." Patricia hugged her mother and ran off to explore the house, leaving Linda and me alone. An awkward silence hung in the air. I desperately tried to come up with some neutral topic of conversation, but only inappropriate thoughts kept popping into my head. Luckily, Linda broke the silence herself. "So, Ted, how about a swim? The heat today is just unbearable." The next day, Linda suggested we take a ride on her yacht. Patricia was thrilled, and I secretly hoped I would have a chance to be alone with Linda. However, as soon as we got out into the open sea, my wife started getting terribly seasick. The poor thing turned green and barely made it to the cabin, where she spent the rest of the trip. Linda and I were left alone on the deck. The sun was beating down mercilessly, and Linda offered me something refreshing to drink. She disappeared into the bar and returned with 2 glasses of iced orange juice. "To our meeting," she winked, handing me the drink. Our fingers touched, and I felt an electric spark run through my body. We chatted about trivial things, admiring the azure expanse of the ocean. Linda told funny stories from her life, and I couldn't take my eyes off her lips. At some point, she caught my gaze and smiled mischievously. "Ted, can you keep a secret?" she purred, coming close to me. I swallowed and nodded, feeling my heart pounding wildly in my chest. Linda ran a finger along my cheek and whispered, "I think you and I are going to get along great. Just don't tell Patricia anything, okay?" With those words, she kissed me on the lips, and I lost my head with desire. The next few days passed in a haze. Linda and I found any excuse to be alone together, stealing kisses in the hallway while Patricia was taking a shower, exchanging meaningful glances across the dinner table, smiling knowingly at each other. It was a sweet madness, a forbidden fruit that I couldn't resist tasting. One evening, when Patricia went to bed early, Linda and I decided to have a cocktail by the pool. The moon silvered the water's surface, cicadas chirped in the night, creating a romantic atmosphere. Linda looked simply stunning in her revealing swimsuit and pareo. "Ted, come to me," she whispered, pulling me into the water. We kissed like crazy, our bodies entwining underwater in an erotic dance. Linda wrapped her legs around my waist, and I felt I couldn't hold back any longer. Right there in the pool, we made love, drowning out the moans of passion with the splashing of water. It happened every night. Linda and I had sex everywhere we could, in the shower, in the garden, in the guest bedroom. It was like an obsession. I knew I was making a terrible mistake betraying Patricia, but I couldn't help myself. Linda was like a drug. I craved her touch, her kisses, her body. Our vacation came to an end, and it was time to return home to real life. Patricia and I packed our bags and said goodbye to Linda, who promised to visit us sometime in Monte Carlo. As we parted, she hugged me tightly and whispered in my ear, "I'm going to miss you, Ted." This was unforgettable. On the plane, I couldn't sit still. Patricia chattered about what a wonderful time we had, and I nodded and smiled, dying of guilt inside. How could I have done this to my beloved wife? How would I look her in the eye after everything I had done with her mother? At home, I buried myself in work, trying to drown out the unwanted memories. But as soon as I closed my eyes, I saw a naked Linda, heard her moans of pleasure, felt her touch on my skin. It was a real obsession. A month passed, then another. I hoped that with time, the memories of Linda would fade, but that didn't happen. On the contrary, I missed her more and more. Sometimes I wanted to drop everything, buy a ticket to Jamaica, and stay there with her forever. But I couldn't do that to Patricia. She didn't deserve such betrayal. And then, one day, there was a knock at the door. Linda stood on the threshold with a suitcase in her hand and a dazzling smile on her face. "Surprise!" she exclaimed, hugging a stunned Patricia. "I missed you guys so much that I decided to come and stay for a couple of weeks. You don't mind, do you?" Patricia was beside herself with joy, and I froze. 2 weeks under the same roof with Linda? This would be a real test of my fidelity. My heart was pounding like crazy when I hugged Linda and smelled the familiar scent of her perfume. "Welcome, Linda," I managed. "We're very happy to see you. I was in for 2 weeks of sweet torture. Would I be able to resist temptation and remain faithful to my wife? Or would I plunge into the abyss of passion again, risking destroying my marriage? I didn't know the answer. But one thing I knew for sure. A holiday romance with my mother-in-law would come back to haunt me in the future. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.